My wife texted, "I'm in Paris. I'll be back in a week." I answered, "Take a good time with him." Then I blocked her and went quiet. No arguments, no explanations. Later that day, her parents called me crying. They already knew what I'd just done. I didn't block her to be petty. I blocked her because I know my own mouth. If Lena got a line into my head, she could fill it with noise until I said something ugly. And if I said something ugly, then the story would be about my anger instead of her choices. Lena loved stories. She curated her life like an Instagram grid. Everything clean, everything bright, every problem softened with a filter. Silence was the only thing left that belonged to me. I sat up and listened to the house. The refrigerator hummed. The furnace kicked on with a low breath. Somewhere in the walls, wood popped as it cooled, like the place was settling around a secret. On the dresser, her perfume bottle stood like a tiny trophy. It was the expensive kind with a French name she liked to say out loud, slow, like it proved she was someone else now. The signs had been there for weeks. Little things. Not the kind you can scream about. The kind you can only stack until they start to look like a wall. Work calls, taken on the porch, in the cold, barefoot. A guarded phone, always face down. A laugh she cut off when I entered a room. Lipstick reapplied for no reason. A new playlist in her car with songs she didn't play around me. And then, the hotel receipt. White paper, crisp fold, shoved into the pocket of her coat like trash. Downtown boutique hotel, 2 glasses of wine. Room service at 1:18 a.m. I didn't confront her. I put it back and watched her the way you watch a crack in concrete. Not hoping it heals. Waiting for the moment it spreads enough that you can't pretend it's nothing. Now the crack was a whole different country. I swung my feet to the floor, cold boards under my toes, and stood. In the hallway, our framed hiking photo sat on the shelf. Lena and me, sweaty and laughing, my arm around her shoulders, her hand on my chest like she was claiming me. Behind us, blue sky and a ridgeline that looked unreal. I turned the frame face down, no smashing glass, no shouting, just a quiet correction. Then I got dressed and went to work, like the world hadn't shifted under my feet. The day moved like a bad dream, everything normal on the outside, everything wrong underneath. At my first inspection, I walked through a renovated loft, while a developer named Pete talked too loud and smiled too hard. Luxury, he kept saying, like the word could hold up the building. I checked sprinkler heads and stairwell doors and exit signs, while Pete told me about backsplash tile like it was a love story. All I could hear was the silence in my pocket where Lena's calls kept trying to land and failing. At lunch, I sat in my truck with a sandwich I couldn't taste and opened our bank app. Not hacking, not snooping, just looking at accounts with my name on them. There it was, 2 plane tickets, business class, hotel prepay, a private car service from the Paris airport. She hadn't ended up there. She'd planned it. She'd pressed buttons and watched confirmation screens and felt proud of herself, probably smiled at her reflection like she was getting away with something. Scrolling back showed the pattern in black and white lines. Restaurants she never mentioned, rides at strange hours, charges that lined up perfectly with nights she said she was staying late. Betrayal is mostly receipts. It's boring. That's what makes it cruel. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered because my job has taught me unknown numbers can become bigger problems if you ignore them. Hello? A woman's voice came through, thin and wrecked. Cal, it's Diane. Lena's mom. Behind her, a man's voice, muffled and tight. Cal, son, please. Lena's dad. They didn't call me son often. That word meant I was already inside their circle of hurt. What's wrong? I asked, even though my gut already knew. Diane swallowed. We got it. The envelope. The ring. That morning, right after the Paris text, I'd opened my dresser drawer and taken Lena's wedding ring from the little velvet box. She'd left it behind once after a fight, claiming it felt too tight. It fit fine, She just wanted a little pain to float between us. I'd slipped it into an envelope and dropped it into her parents' mailbox on my way to work. No note, no speech, just returned property. "You opened it," I said. Diane's breath hitched like she was trying not to fall apart. "Are you leaving her?" "She left," I said. "She's in Paris." A sharp inhale. "She told us it was a conference," Diane whispered, still trying to stack the world back into order. "It's not," I said. Silence. Then her dad, low and angry in that old-school way. "Who is he?" I could have lied. I could have played dumb. I could have protected them from the uglier details for one more hour. But buildings don't stay up on lies. Marriages don't either. "I don't have a name," I said. "Not yet." Diane started to cry, quiet at first, then heavier, like a pipe bursting behind drywall. "Please, don't do anything rash." Rash. Like I was the one who booked Paris. "I'm not doing anything rash," I said. "I'm doing something quiet." "Cal, I'm sorry you're hurt," I said, "but you're already in it." I hung up before they could beg me into politeness. When I looked down, my screen showed 3 blocked call attempts from Lena. Cute. Like she'd suddenly remembered I existed. I didn't listen to her voicemail. I didn't need her version of reality. I needed to move pieces. I went to a law office in a strip mall between a dentist and a place that sold vape juice. The sign said, "Morris Family Law," and the waiting room smelled like paper and tired coffee. Janet Morris was in her 50s with sharp eyes and hair cut short, like she didn't have time to pretend she was soft. She let me talk without interrupting, then started asking questions like she was drawing a map. "Kids?" "No," I said. "Property?" "The house is mine. Bought before the marriage," I said. "Joint accounts?" "Yes," I said. "Utilities, some savings. She has her own spending account, too." Janet's pen scratched. "Prenup?" "Yes," I said, and slid the folder across her desk. She read it, nodded, and didn't smile. "Clear on property and debt," she said. "Helpful, not an infidelity clause. Also helpful." "So what do I do?" I asked. "You don't do anything that makes you look unstable," she said. "Paper beats emotion. Separate finances legally. Change direct deposit. Freeze joint credit so she can't go on a spree. Document everything. And don't change locks while she's out of the country without guidance. Judges hate games." I stared at my hands on my knees. They were steady. That scared me more than shaking would have. "What if I don't want games?" I said. "What if I want her to understand I saw everything, and I stepped aside so the world could watch her fall?" Janet looked at me like I was a beam that might snap. "Then keep it controlled," she said. "No threats, no property destruction, no showing up at airports. You're not a movie. You're a man with a life to protect." I nodded. "I'm controlled," I said. Janet's voice softened a fraction. "Hurt people do dumb things, Cal," she said. "Be smarter than the hurt." I stood up, and in that moment I felt the door close behind something in me. Not love, not grief. Something quieter, something that didn't ask for permission. Outside, the sky was low and gray, streetlights already on like the city expected night early. I sat in my truck and stared at the steering wheel until my breath evened out. Then I did what Janet told me, step by boring step. At the bank, a woman named Maya smiled the way people smile when their job includes watching strangers implode under fluorescent lights. "Separate account?" she asked. "Yes," I said. I moved my paycheck, set alerts, froze new charges on the joint credit line instead of canceling it. Janet's words echoed. "Don't look cruel, look reasonable. Let the other person look reckless on their own." While Maya typed, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Call me. It's Grant." There was my missing name, delivered like a confession. A month ago, at a neighborhood cookout, Lena had mentioned Grant from Westline Realty with a laugh that came too quick. "Annoying," she'd said, "the way people label something harmless so you stop looking. Now he wanted to talk. Of course he did. Men like Grant always want to talk when consequences start to breathe down their neck. I didn't answer him. I didn't block him either. I wanted the door open, just enough to hear what fell out. That night I rented a small storage unit. 10 by 10, metal door, padlock. I moved the things that mattered. My grandfather's tools, my file boxes, the letters from my mother, the old photos. Not revenge, safety. A man doesn't leave his heart sitting out on the kitchen table when the other person has proven they can throw things. When I got home, the house felt staged. Couch pillows perfectly placed, a candle on the coffee table that smelled like fake vanilla. Our life arranged. At 9:40 p.m., my buddy Joel called. We'd known each other 10 years. City electrician, always a smudge of grease on his thumb, always honest in a way that hurt sometimes. "Man," he said, "you okay?" "I'm fine," I said. He snorted. "Don't do that. I heard something." "What?" "Some realtor at my gym was running his mouth," Joel said. "Grant, bragging about a Paris trip, talking about this married woman he's finally taking public." My grip tightened on the phone. "He said her name?" "No," Joel said, and I heard the worry in his voice. "But he described her, said she has a little laugh and a scar on her knee from falling off a bike as a kid." That scar was a third date story. Lena had told it to me like it was intimate, like it was ours. "Where?" I asked. "Iron Harbor Gym," Joel said. "Lower garage, same spot every time, like he owns it." I wrote it down. Iron Harbor, lower garage. After I hung up, I sat in my dark kitchen and listened to the furnace breathe. Somewhere far away, my wife was in Paris, probably holding up a glass of wine like she'd earned it. Meanwhile, in my life, her lover was bragging in a gym like a teenager. I didn't feel rage. I felt focus. The next morning, I went to work like a man with a normal life, because normal is camouflage. At noon, I drove to Iron Harbor and parked across the street. I didn't walk in. I didn't stare hard. I watched the doors and the people and the little movements that said who belonged to what. At 12:37, Grant's black SUV rolled into the garage. There he was through the windshield, polo shirt, sunglasses, grin like polished plastic. He wasn't with Lena. Paris wasn't real life. Paris was the stage. Real life was the garage under a gym where the lights flickered just enough to make everything look sick. At 1:22, he came out with his gym bag and a smoothie, moving like space owed him rent. He walked to his SUV, unlocked it, tossed the bag in the back, and stood there scrolling his phone, smiling. I pulled my truck in behind his SUV, close enough to block, not close enough to hit. A simple trap made of metal and patience. He turned, annoyed, then saw me. Recognition came, then uncertainty. He wasn't used to uncertainty. I got out slow, city jacket on, badge visible in my chest pocket. Not a cop, but official enough to make him reconsider dumb choices. "Grant," I said. "Cal," he said, forcing friendliness. "Hey man, look, we should talk, adult talk, no drama." "No drama," I repeated. "You're in Paris with my wife." His smile twitched. He lifted both hands like he was calming a dog. "She told me you two were separated," he said fast. "Basically roommates. She said you don't even—" "Stop," I said, and my voice stayed low. "Don't say things about my marriage like you were there." He blinked, annoyed now. "I'm not trying to be the bad guy," he said. "You're already the bad guy," I said softly. "You just don't like the costume." He glanced at my badge. "You a cop?" "No," I said. "I inspect buildings." He let out a laugh that sounded wrong. "Okay, so what is this? You're going to report me to the Department of Marriage?" I stepped closer, stopping 2 feet away. No touching, just presence. "You've been talking," I said. "Bragging, painting her like she's a prize." "Guys talk," he said, but sweat was starting at his temple. "And that's how reputations get stained," I said. Not by explosions, by little mouths. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He checked it without thinking. His face went pale. "Lena," he muttered. "Of course," I said. "She can't reach me. Silence scares her more than shouting." He swallowed hard. "What do you want?" "I want you to stop contacting me," I said. "Stop saying her name like it's a joke. And understand I'm not asking." He tried to puff up. "Or what?" I just looked at him. "Or you'll learn what it feels like to be inspected," I said. A car rolled somewhere above us, echoing through concrete like distant thunder. The garage felt colder. Grant's bravado leaked out of him. He whispered, "You're threatening me." "I'm describing the next stage," I said. "You live in perception. I live in documents." He shifted, and his eyes kept flicking to the ramp like he wanted to run. Then he asked, almost childlike, "Are you going to hurt me?" I shook my head. "No," I said. "I'm going to let you do this to yourself." His mouth opened, then closed. He didn't have a comeback for that. I stepped back like I was generous. "You're going to call her," I said, "and you're going to tell her you ran into me, and you're going to tell her I was calm." "Why?" he blurted. "Because calm will do the work," I said. I turned and walked away. In my mirror as I drove out, he stood with his phone in his hand, staring at it like it might bite. That night, Lena used her mother's phone to call me. Diane's number lit up again. I let it ring long enough to turn the pause into a message, then answered. "Cal," Diane whispered. "She's here. She wants to talk." A shuffle. Then Lena's voice, bright and forced, like she was putting on lipstick through the phone. "Hi, babe." "Don't call me that," I said. Silence. Then smaller. "Why are you doing this?" "Doing what?" "Blocking me," she snapped, then softened. "Sending my ring to my parents like I'm nothing." "You made yourself nothing in my house," I said. Her breath caught. "Grant says he saw you," she said quickly. "He says you cornered him." I said hello, I said. "I used his name. That's all." Fear slipped into her voice, thin as a wire. "This isn't funny." "It's not," I said. She tried the soft approach. "Okay. You found out. We can talk when I'm home. We can work through it." "Say it," I said. "Say what?" "Say what you did," I said. Out loud. There was a long pause. I heard Diane sob once, muffled, like she'd covered her mouth with her hand. Then Lena said, "I went to Paris with Grant." "And?" "I crossed a line," she said fast. "But it's not what you think." "It's exactly what I think," I said. "You booked Paris while you were still my wife." "I didn't use your money," she snapped. "I saw the charges," I said. "On the joint account." Silence, thick and ugly. Then Lena's voice turned sharp. "So what? You're going to ruin me?" "I'm not telling anyone," I said. "I'm stepping back. People will do what people do." She breathed hard. "I'm coming home early." "No," I said. "What do you mean, no?" "I mean, you're coming home to papers," I said. "And if you try to force your way into my house, I'll call the police, not to get you arrested, to create a record." She went very quiet. "You wouldn't," she whispered. "I would," I said. I hung up. I didn't feel victory. I felt like I'd stepped into a new room and the door had locked behind me. The next 3 days were ordinary motions with a wrecking ball hidden inside them. I went to work. I signed inspections. I nodded at coworkers. I answered emails like a man who still had a life. In between, I moved money the way Janet told me. Paycheck rerouted, new account set, joint credit frozen, passwords changed, beneficiaries updated. My valuables moved to storage. I didn't drain the joint account. I didn't leave her penniless. Cruelty would have made me look bad. I wanted the truth to do the damage, not my temper. Lena tried to regain control through other people. She called my sister and cried into her voicemail. She called Joel. She called my supervisor at the city and left a message that sounded like someone practicing tears. My supervisor, Ron, called me into his office and shut the door. Older guy, mustache, not the sentimental type. Personal stuff? He asked. Yes, I said. Is it going to hit the job? No, I said. He nodded like he'd decided to trust me, and then he said, Your wife called. She sounded unstable. She is, I said. Ron watched me for a long second. If she shows up here, he said, security will handle it. You don't. I nodded. Understood. That afternoon, a text popped up from a number I hadn't seen in a year. Kara, one of Lena's college friends. Are you okay? People are saying things. I stared at the screen, then set the phone down. I didn't answer. Silence was still my weapon. 2 hours later, Grant texted, We need to talk. She lied to me. I didn't know. Maybe that last part was true. Maybe it was a convenient lie. Either way, it didn't matter. I typed a reply, then erased it. I didn't want a written argument. I wanted a written record. So I opened my email and wrote one message, clean, calm, like an inspection report. To Diane and Paul. CC. Lena. Subject. Next steps. I wrote, I won't argue. I've retained counsel. Service will occur when Lena returns. Please don't involve yourselves further. I'm sorry you're hurt. I am too. No attachments, no accusations, no proof. Proof wasn't the point. The point was that the adults in the room had changed. 10 minutes later, Kara texted again. She's telling people you're controlling and punishing her, just so you know. I felt something inside me click into place. Not anger. Recognition. Lena was already trying to rewrite the story, and she hadn't even landed yet. By day 4, the silence started to make noise. It wasn't Lena's voice anymore. It was everybody else's. A woman from HR at the city left a message with my admin. Tell Cal to call me when he can. Not angry, not urgent, curious. Curiosity is the first form of gossip. When I called back, the HR rep, Marisol, kept her tone professional, but her questions had little hooks in them. Are you safe at home? She asked. Yes, I said. Do we need to be aware of any visitors? No, I said. She hesitated. Your wife emailed the department account, she said. Not yours, the department's. She said you were having a mental break and that you might do something. My stomach dropped, slow. Not fear, not panic, a cold kind of clarity. She said that, I repeated. Yes, Marisol said carefully. I'm not calling to accuse you. I'm calling to document what you tell me. That's how we protect everyone. Paper beats emotion. I'm not having a break, I said. I'm getting a divorce. I'm working with counsel. If she shows up here, security should handle it like Ron said. I won't engage. Marisol exhaled. Okay, she said. Thank you. Please email me that in writing. I did. 1 paragraph. Calm, factual, no insults, no accusations. Just, I am safe. I am not a threat. I am handling a personal matter through counsel. Please direct any future messages from my spouse away from department accounts. After I hit send, I sat in my truck and stared at the steering wheel, thinking about how fast Lena had jumped to the most poisonous story she could tell. Not that she cheated, not that she lied, that I was dangerous. That was her real weapon. If she couldn't control you, she'd control how people saw you. That afternoon, I noticed a silver sedan behind me on my drive home. It stayed through 3 turns. It didn't pass when I slowed. It didn't drop back when I changed lanes. I didn't speed up. I didn't brake check. I didn't do anything that would look like a man trying to win a road war. I drove to a busy shopping center instead of my street and parked near the entrance where cameras faced the lot. I destroyed the engine and looked in the rearview mirror. The silver sedan rolled past, slow. Grant wasn't driving. A younger guy was, mid-20s, haircut too sharp, jaw working like he was chewing gum. He looked over at my truck, then looked away too fast. He circled once, then pulled into a row 2 lanes over. Sat there. waiting. I took my phone out and started recording. Not him, not close. Just the lot, the cars, the timestamp. A normal man's version of protection. The young guy got out, walked toward my truck, then slowed when he saw me staring back. He raised his phone like he was checking messages, but the camera lens pointed at me. He was trying to get a reaction. A clip. A headline. City inspector threatens realtor's friend in parking lot. I gave him nothing. I stepped out slowly, hands visible, posture relaxed. I didn't walk at him. I walked toward the store entrance like I was just another customer. I passed a security guard in a yellow vest and nodded like we were buddies. The young guy hesitated. His plan needed a private corner. Cameras and witnesses ruined it. He turned and went back to the silver sedan. As he drove out, I caught a glimpse of a Westline Realty sticker on the rear window. Grant was sending scouts. I went home later through neighborhood streets, taking the long way, and when I pulled into my driveway, I didn't feel scared. I felt confirmed. Lena was in Paris pretending she was free, and back home she was already building the story where I was the monster. Fine. Monsters, at least, are easy to see coming. On day 5, Lena stopped pretending she was a tourist and started acting like a cornered animal. She used Diane's phone again, but this time she didn't start soft. "Unblock me," she demanded the second I answered. "No," I said. "You can't just erase me," she snapped. "I'm not erasing you," I said. "I'm separating from you." Her voice went sharp, mean. "You're doing this to make me suffer." "I'm doing this so I don't," I said. A breath. Then she tried a different angle. "Cal, listen," she said, suddenly gentle. "We can keep this private. We can—" "Private?" I repeated. "Grant's bragging in a gym garage." Silence on the line, then a quick inhale like she'd been slapped. "He wouldn't," she said. "He did," I said. Her voice broke for real then. "Please," she whispered. "Please don't make me a joke." That sentence told me everything. She wasn't begging to fix the marriage. She was begging to fix the image. "I'm not making you anything," I said. "I'm watching you become it." Diane's voice came in, trembling. "Cal, honey, please." "I'm sorry," I said to Diane. And I meant it. Diane didn't deserve this. But I can't carry her choices for her. Then I hung up again. After that call, the attempted messages sped up. New numbers, emails, a long paragraph from Lena that started with, "I know you're hurt," and ended with, "If you don't answer, I'll come home and make you talk. Make you." That was Lena. She didn't ask. She arranged. I forwarded the message to Janet. Janet replied in 5 minutes. "Do not respond. Keep everything. If she shows up and escalates, call police and document. No conversation without witness." Paper beats emotion. I went to sleep that night in my own bed, alone, staring at the ceiling, and for the first time I wondered if the marriage had ever been real, or if I'd just been the guy holding up the set. Lena came home on day 6, not day 7. Of course she did. She couldn't stand not being the one to choose the timing. My security camera pinged. Porch motion. On my phone, I watched her drag a suitcase up the steps, jaw tight, eyes red like she'd cried, and then decided crying was embarrassing. She punched in the smart lock code. Beep. Red. I hadn't changed the physical locks, Janet warned me. But the code was convenience, and convenience lives under my name. Lena could have used her key, if she'd brought it. She hadn't. She knocked, hard. "Cal?" I didn't open the door right away. I let the seconds stretch. Let her hear her own breathing. Let her feel what it's like when a door doesn't care about your voice. She knocked again. "Open the door." I opened it and filled the frame with my body. Calm. Still. Lena looked past me into the house, searching for the life she'd left like she expected it to be waiting. "Where's my stuff?" "Inside," I said. "Why isn't the code working?" "Because it's mine," I said. "You can't lock me out," she snapped. "I didn't," I said. "You have a key?" Her eyes flicked to her purse, then froze. No key. Her tone shifted, soft and sugary. "Please," she said. "Let me in. We need to talk." "We can talk right here," I said. Her eyes flashed. "You're embarrassing me." "You embarrassed yourself," I said. She tried tears. "I made a mistake. I was lonely. You were always—" "Stop," I said. "You weren't lonely. You were bored." That hit her. Her face tightened like she was holding back a scream. "What do you want?" she demanded. "I want you to go to your parents," I said. "No," she said. "This is my home too." "Not anymore," I said. "Legally," she started, and I watched her reach for the power of paperwork like she could weaponize it now. "Legally, if you force your way in, I can call the police," I said. "And that creates a record. Like I told you." Her breath went shallow. She stared at me, trying to find the right angle to flip the board. Then she whispered, "I'll ruin you." There it was, the real Lena, under the polish, the woman who believed destroying someone else's image was self-defense. I nodded. "You can try," I said. "But you're late." "What does that mean?" I stepped aside and opened the door wider, not inviting, allowing. "Come in," I said. "You should see what quiet looks like on paper." She stepped inside. On the kitchen table, a neat stack, Janet's letterhead, divorce filing, temporary notices, the prenup, printed and flagged, a list of accounts with notes like closed to new charges, moved direct deposit, documented expenses. Lena's hands started to shake as she read. "I already did," I said. Her suitcase slipped from her fingers and hit the floor with a thud that sounded like something ending. The next hour was the loudest our house had been in years, and I barely raised my voice once. Lena paced, accused, begged, tried to bargain. She kept circling back to the same thing. Image. "You're trying to humiliate me," she said. "No," I said. "I'm leaving you." "That's humiliation," she snapped. "Everyone will know." "Everyone already knows," I said. "Grant made sure of that." She froze. "What did he say?" "Enough," I said. She grabbed her phone and started firing off texts in front of me like I was air. Then she flinched when nothing came back fast enough. She wasn't used to waiting. "I can fix this," she said, switching tactics. "Marriage counseling. Whatever you want." "You don't fix a foundation that's been cut," I said. "You rebuild somewhere else." Her eyes narrowed. "So you're done," she said coldly. "Just like that." "Not just like that," I said. "Like weeks of watching you lie. Like months of you turning away while you stared at your phone. Like you booking Paris while I still believed the vows meant something." She stared at me like the word vows offended her. "You're acting like some monster," she whispered. Maybe I was. Maybe monsters are just men who stop being useful. She stepped closer, voice low. "If you do this, I'll tell people you were controlling, that you were emotionally abusive, that you trapped me." That was the moment the last warm part of me shut off. Not because of the threat, because of how easy it was for her to say it. "You can say whatever you want," I said, "but you can't make me answer." She swallowed, and for the first time she looked truly scared, not of losing me, but of losing control of the narrative. Outside, a car passed, headlights sweeping the living room like a searchlight. For a second, Lena's face looked older, tired, cracked at the edges. Then she straightened again, putting the mask back on. "I'm not going to my parents," she said. "You are," I said. "Or what?" she challenged, borrowing Grant's line like she thought it was strong. I met her gaze. "Or you'll create a scene," I said. "And the scene will create a record, and the record will live longer than your story." She stared at me, and I watched the calculation happen behind her eyes. What does she lose if she fights? What does she lose if she runs? That's when my phone buzzed with a message from Janet. "If she's in the home and refuses to leave, do not argue. Call non-emergency. Let officers ask her to leave. Stay calm. Do not escalate. Paper beats emotion. I showed Lena the message without a word. Her face drained. You called the police? She whispered. Not yet, I said. But I will. She looked around the house like it had betrayed her. Then she grabbed her suitcase again, hard, and said through clenched teeth, Fine. The twist wasn't a hidden camera. It wasn't a miracle confession. It was worse because it was boring. Weeks before Paris, Lena asked me to sign papers for a home equity line for renovations. New counters, a bigger deck, a story about a future that looked good in photos. I read the papers. Really read them. The line would have tied my house to her spending. If I signed, debt could become mine even if she burned the marriage down. It wasn't illegal. It was just hungry. I didn't sign. Lena smiled too bright that night and said, You don't trust me? I told her, I just need time, and watched her swallow irritation like poison. After she went to bed, I called Janet, not for divorce, for advice. Janet explained something simple. If I kept the house separate, I needed to stop blending everything into a shared fog. Document. Protect. Don't let anyone strap their panic to your foundation. So I started writing dates in a notebook. I saved receipts she left behind. I took screenshots of shared account charges. I didn't follow her. I didn't hack her phone. I just collected the crumbs she dropped while she thought I wasn't paying attention. Paris didn't create my plan. Paris confirmed it. Lena never saw that coming. She thought she was the only one capable of planning in silence. I drove Lena to her parents' house myself. Not kindness, control, witnesses. Diane opened the door with tears already spilling. Paul stood behind her, jaw tight, eyes red like sleep had become impossible. Lena tried to push past the moment with a practiced smile. It went on her face when Diane started crying harder. Is it true? Paul asked, voice low. Lena's mouth trembled. Dad, is it true? He repeated. She nodded once. Small. A confession with no pride. Paul shut his eyes like the answer hurt physically. When he opened them, he looked at me. I'm sorry, he said, and his voice broke. I know, I said. Lena snapped at me, sharp with humiliation. Don't act like you're the good guy. I'm not, I said. I'm the guy who stopped being useful. That sentence landed in the hallway like a dropped dish. Diane's sob caught. Paul's jaw clenched. Lena flinched like I'd named something she'd been trying to hide from herself. Diane wrapped her arms around Lena anyway, because mothers do that even when they're bleeding. Paul didn't move. He just watched his daughter like he didn't know where she ended, and the damage began. I walked back to my truck and sat down the street where I could see the house, but not be part of it. Then I opened my laptop. I wrote one email, clean, factual, no insults, addressed to Westline Realty's public HR address and the broker of record. I attached screenshots Grant had posted publicly from Paris, photos with captions, dates, the kind of bragging that turns into evidence when the world decides it's tired of you. I didn't accuse him of crimes. I didn't mention my marriage. I asked politely whether this was the brand representation they wanted and whether they needed anything further for their review. Then I hit send. 20 minutes later, Grant called. Again. Text. What did you do? I didn't answer, because the best part of revenge isn't the punchline. It's the moment before they understand what you did, when they can feel the floor shifting and they still think they can fix it by talking louder. After dark, Grant showed up at Diane's house anyway. Men like Grant believe reality bends to their confidence. If they talk fast enough, smile wide enough, clap their hands like it's a business meeting, they can rewrite any room. He walked up the driveway like he owned it. Paul opened the door before he knocked. Grant started fast. Mr. Halpern, I just need... Get off my property, Paul said, loud enough for the street to hear. Grant blinked. His smile tried to survive. Sir, please, Lena and I... Get off my property, Paul repeated, and there was something in his tone that made Grant take a step back. That's when Grant saw me across the street in my truck, headlights off, window down halfway. He froze. He walked toward me like a man walking toward a judge. "Cal," he whispered, shaking. "Man, what the hell? You emailed my office. They called me in. HR. They—" His voice cracked. "They put me on leave, pending review." I nodded once. "Okay," I said. His eyes went wet. "You ruined me." "No," I said. "You did. I just turned on the lights." He leaned closer, desperate. "She lied to me," he said. "She told me you were—" "I don't care what she told you," I said. "This is between you and your reflection." His phone buzzed. He looked at the screen like it was a gun. "HR," he breathed. He answered in a voice that had lost its shine. Yes, I can talk. Tomorrow at 9. No, I understand." When he hung up, his shoulders sagged like someone had cut the strings holding him upright. "They're asking about Paris," he whispered. "About posts, about complaints." I watched him, calm, still, the way I watch a bad beam before it snaps. He swallowed. "What do you want?" he asked, pleading now. "I want you to leave," I said. "And I want you to remember this feeling the next time you brag about another man's wife." His eyes darted to Diane's house. Curtains shifted. Someone inside was watching. Diane, maybe. Lena, definitely. She'd hear this. She'd feel the humiliation sink in deeper than any apology could reach. Grant shook his head, like he didn't understand how silence could do this much damage. You didn't even hit me," he said, half crying. I smiled, small. "I didn't need to," I said. Grant backed away from my truck like he was moving away from heat he couldn't see. Then he turned and walked down the driveway, past Paul, past the porch light, out into the street where his SUV waited like a getaway car that suddenly looked cheap. Paul stood at the door, arms crossed, watching him go. He didn't look like a man who wanted violence. He looked like a man who wanted the world to be simple again and couldn't have it. Grant got into his SUV. Before he drove off, he looked back at the house one last time. Not romantic, not proud, just afraid. I watched his taillights disappear, and then my phone buzzed. Not Grant, not Lena. A notification from my bank. Joint card attempted charge. Declined. I pictured Lena inside, on her childhood couch, trying to buy control with a swipe and getting a hard no instead. I pictured her staring at her phone, waiting for the world to bend back into the shape she liked. It wouldn't. Because I wasn't shouting. I wasn't begging. I wasn't even explaining. I'd turned the frame face down. I'd moved the pieces. I'd filed the papers. I'd let the truth travel faster than any apology she could manufacture. Across the street, Diane's curtains shifted again. Then the front door opened a crack, and Lena stepped onto the porch barefoot, like the house itself was too heavy to breathe in. She had her phone in her hand. The screen lit her face from below, making her look like a stranger wearing Lena's features. Her hair was loose and uneven, and her eyes were puffy from crying she probably tried to hide. She tapped fast with her thumb. Stopped. Tapped again. Stopped again. Longer this time. Then my email app buzzed with a new subject line. Westline HR. Employment status update. I didn't open it. I didn't need the details. A door had closed somewhere, clean and official, the way doors close when paperwork meets reputation. Grant couldn't smile his way through that door. Lena stared at her phone like it had betrayed her. Her shoulders dropped, not in a dramatic collapse, but in the slow surrender of a person realizing the world is not a story she can edit. Paul's voice floated out behind her, low and tired. "Lena, come inside." She didn't move. She kept looking down the street where Grant's SUV had vanished, as if she expected him to come back, smile, and fix the mess the way he sold houses, by describing something better until you believed it. Then she turned her head and saw my truck parked across the street, dark as an unmarked car. For a second, she tried to put the mask back on. You could see the mechanics of it, the chin lift, the swallow, The inhale that meant she was about to speak in that calm, reasonable tone she used when she wanted a room on her side. But the mask wouldn't stick. She opened her mouth, and nothing came out. Not because she didn't have words, because for once she didn't have the power to make them matter. I lifted 2 fingers in a calm wave, not cruel, not kind, just acknowledgement, like we were neighbors, and she'd only stepped out to check the mail. The effect was instant and brutal. Her face crumpled, not into rage, not into bargaining, but into pure understanding. She finally knew what I'd done without ever laying a hand on anyone. I'd stopped holding her up, and gravity did the rest. Behind her, Diane's silhouette appeared in the doorway, one hand pressed to her mouth. Paul stood like a post, unmoving, refusing to carry what wasn't his. I started my truck, pulled away, and left Lena standing in the porch light with her parents behind her and Paris inside her chest, finally cold.